Welcome to From a Woman to a Leader, a podcast dedicated to discussing the challenges and providing tips for women in tech leadership. Hi, I'm your host, Limor Bergman-Gross, and in each episode, we'll hear from other successful women in tech, sharing their stories, insights, and advice. Join us as we empower each other to reach our full potential in the tech industry. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. And today we're going to talk about introversion, and more specifically, embracing your strength and empowering your tech career. And we will explore how introverts can leverage their strength to increase visibility and create meaningful connection in the workplace without compromising their authenticity. And this is near and dear to my heart because I do consider myself as an introvert. And I have the pleasure of speaking today with Jenny To. And a little bit about Jenny. Jenny is a certified coach, a professional certified coach who runs her own coaching practice called River Life Coaching. And she is also a qualified lawyer in the UK, Singapore, and Malaysia. Jenny is passionate about coaching introverted individuals to be more visible on their own terms and to empower them to live fully and joyfully. Hi, Jenny. Welcome.
Hi, Limor. Thanks for having me on your show. And since you've given such concise introduction, what else do I have to say about myself?
Whatever you want. Where are you based right now, Jenny?
I am based in Singapore. That's where I live with my husband and 3 kids. So life outside my coaching practice is also quite busy and full.
Absolutely. I'm sure it is. Yeah. And please share a little bit, Jenny, about your background as a lawyer and what inspired you to transition into coaching and start River Life Coaching.
Yes, good question. And I do share a lot about my transition journey in other podcasts as well. So it's my story. I've been practicing law for more than, this will be my 26th year, although I've toned down my legal practice a lot to focus more on the coaching business. And I moved into coaching in 2019. So this was before the pandemic. And it's more of personal purpose calling. So I'm a Christian, Limor, and I believe after much reflection and prayer that this is what God has called me into in this season of my life. So it wasn't like an overnight shift, right? Naturally, I'm a lawyer, I'm very practical, I'm very rational. So it took me a while to really come to grips that, okay, this is what I want to do while I still can. So actually, I was exposed to coaching maybe earlier on in 2015 in the organization I was working for. They gave us some coach training. I used that skill with the juniors in the department, and I felt that, oh, okay, I'm actually pretty good at this and I enjoy it. But I pushed it aside, never really thought about it as like profession. Then it came to maybe three years later in 2018 that I felt really uncomfortable, like something's not quite right, something's missing, even though things were going well on the job front and the family front as well. So it was something deeper that I felt that I'm called to do. So it took a lot of courage and a leap of faith to actually train as a coach. So I trained as a coach even while I was holding a full-time job. It was with an Australian school. I could do the classes virtually. So all this was before the pandemic, which is amazing that this school was already giving the global classroom. So it helped me when the pandemic hit and I decided to launch my business. I made plans to launch my business before knowing that the pandemic would hit in 2020. So when the pandemic hit, I took another leap of faith saying that, okay, this is my chance to reach out to people, from everywhere. And it worked. So I do virtual online one-to-one coaching, which I still do now, although now there's more in-person interaction with my clients here in Singapore as well. So it's 3 years on now in the business, and I find it very satisfying, very fulfilling. Yes.
Yeah, and I very much relate to what you mentioned, like having it a process, right? I mean, figuring out what you want and finding your calling. And a lot of times people expect like, okay, a light bulb will light and they will know what they are destined to do. And sometimes it takes time. And another thing that I really resonated with, that you tried coaching while you were still a lawyer, and you find out that you love it and you're good at it. So a lot of time is experimenting.
Mm, exactly, Limor. Yes, and a lot of my clients are also going through some sort of career transition, maybe not changing the profession as drastically as myself, but they could be in an organization thinking that, okay, right now I'm good in this area, but in order for me to get to the next level, I should expand my scope. So like you said, it's experimenting, exploring, and actually sometimes the main block in all our opportunities and the things that we want to do is ourselves, right? We hold ourselves back. Especially as an introvert, you'll be introspecting and thinking, okay, if I want to go and do this new thing, do I have the skill sets for it? What if it doesn't work out? What if I, you know, lose the working relationships with the people here? What if I fail? So a lot of times we shoot ourselves down even before, even start exploring.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jenny, how did your experience as an introvert shape your understanding of the unique challenges that are faced by introvert, especially, women in a very male dominant field like tech?
Mm. I can first relate from my experience as a young lawyer. So I know it's not tech, but there are areas in law that's also quite male dominated. And I started off as a trial attorney. So, back then, that was like many, many years ago, there tends to be a lot more male lawyers doing court work than female lawyers. And I didn't quite understand the concept of introverts and extroverts back then, because we don't have that much information ready to us unless you read up on it. So, but I found myself that after a long day in court, I really didn't want to socialize anymore. So they would say, let's go for drinks, let's hang out. And all I wanted to do was run home. I didn't understand then that it was because my energy was greatly reduced by, being in court and speaking, right? So now I understand that introversion doesn't mean you're shy. You're not shy. It's just your energy is recharge when you spend time alone, when you have that quiet time for yourself. So your energy is drained if you are talking to people for prolonged number of hours without any time to recharge. So I didn't understand that, and I felt bad, and I felt that something is wrong with me, right? Why don't I want to hang out with my fellow lawyers whom I enjoy? So I don't work in tech, but I've coached quite a number of people in tech, including women in tech, and there are challenges there, like you said, in a male dominated industry, company, profession. Maybe you being female and introverted, you feel that, oh, my voice is not as important as everyone else, the more extroverted male. What I have to say may not have as much value. So again, we hold ourselves back by thinking that, which may not be true. You haven't given yourself the chance to actually voice your thoughts.
Absolutely. And I want to just emphasize what you mentioned about, that after being whole day in the court, you wanted just to go back home and just be with yourself. I very much resonate with that as well, because I'm not a lawyer and I haven't been in court. But when I was traveling from work, whether it was for a conference or just for meetings in an office, I felt suffocated. There were times I felt like I really need some space. Sometimes I even went for coffee outside or for a walk, because it was too much. It was too much for me being all day long socializing. And in some ways, like wearing some masks, right? You need to socialize with people you don't know or you don't know that well, especially in conferences. And for me, it was an effort. It was making a lot of effort. So I just want to tell any of you that listen to us, if you have similar feelings, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just the way you are. If you need the alone time, if you need space with yourself, if you enjoy spending time with yourself and need that, and you feel that it's too much spending days over days with a lot of people, it just means that's what you need in your life. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you.
I love that, Limor, and I wish someone had told me that like years ago, right? When I was going through that, like I said, I thought that something's wrong with me. Why don't I like hanging out with the people whom I work with, whom I see, almost on a daily basis? And a good thing, a good situation that you brought up there, conferences. So introverts are like, oh, do I have to go there? Do I have to my boss says I need to make contacts, right? So again, how to address this is make small goals for yourself. Like, for example, if you're going, maybe let's not talk about a global conference that's a bit too big. Let's just say a normal, small networking event, right? Then you're supposed to go there and meet your fellow peers, meet some new people. So set yourself a little goal. Maybe say that, okay, I will connect with 3 people and I will learn about what they do, what's their industry like, and what are their experiences. And I also make a point to share about myself. So once you meet that personal goal of 3 people, you can give some comfort to yourself, like, oh, I've met my own goal. So whoever you speak to after that is an added bonus, right? So then you feel less daunted by the experience. And also, like you said, give yourself permission. If after 2 hours of networking you feel you're very tired, you can leave, right? Of course, to tell the people that thank you very much, but I have to go now. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to feel guilty about it. So the preparation that you want to go in is set small goals, like what do you want, who do you want to speak to, and what information is it that you want to hear from them, and what information can you share, the amount of time that you want to spend there. And then I had another client say that, when I go to a party, I'm with my extroverted friends. I know this is more social, so how do I get out of it? I told her, think of a strategy. Maybe, order an Uber to come and pick you up the 3 hours and say, my ride is here and I have to go. So allow for situations where you can exit and exit gracefully without any guilty feeling.
Definitely. No guilt and no blaming yourself or thinking something is wrong with you.
Yes.
So you talked about, strategies, and I love your tips of how to overcome that. But I wanted to ask you how being an introvert can actually be a strength, can be something good that will help you in your career.
So for us introverts, this is again a generalization. So we're human beings. We cannot be boxed like, oh, introvert means you are like this, right? We're all on a spectrum. And like you said, Limo, there are times when you're in conferences, you can talk to people. So those are your extroverted moments. The main thing for us to know is to understand our level of tolerance. So I know of introverts who can actually give webinars and talk to a lot of people, but they do after that need their downtime. You might not know that this person is an introvert because you don't see it, but he or she takes care of themselves and have that downtime. So some of the strengths that I see as an introvert in the workplace is your ability to make strong one-to-one relationships. A lot of times when I speak to my clients who are also largely introverts, they say I have no problems, having one-to-one or even 1-to-2 small group conversations. I actually feel energized because introverts feel energized when there are meaningful, impactful conversations. I had people telling me I can't take small talk because what's the meaning of that, right? So they need conversations that have value, that have meaning, and they get energized by it. So it's actually a strength because I've seen introverts who are passionate about a particular topic. They really dig into it. They really get into the meat of the matter, and they have so much value, so much knowledge to share. But in a meeting, which has extroverts and introverts tend to hold themselves back because the extroverts are just talking and talking, and then you don't push yourself to have a word in. Right. And then after that, the moment is lost and you feel that, oh, it's not the right time to say. Whereas as an extrovert, I've spoken to extroverts, and I have friends who are extroverts, they don't think. I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's just their nature. They don't think about how people would think about them. Sometimes the thought is slower than their speech. So they'll speak out first, even before thinking. So I've actually challenged my introvert clients to say that when you're in those meetings and you hear those things said by the extroverts, and then you compare to the knowledge that you have, do those extroverts wait until they're 100% sure of what they're saying? So most times upon reflection, my clients will say, no, actually, they're not 100% sure. They just voice out their view and say, in my opinion. So I'm asking them, what's stopping you? Why do you need to be 100% sure that you've got all your facts right before saying anything? So one tip is when you're attending a meeting or, a conversation with people, check out what's the intention of that meeting and what's the outcome. If it's just a brainstorming or, the start of a project meeting, no one's expecting you to know everything, right? Even in a midway project meeting, it's just to give your opinion at how the project is going on at that time, to talk about deliverables, to explain what are the challenges. No one needs you to be 100% correct. And I think a lot of introverts, sometimes we also have a bit of perfectionistic trait. We need to have the idea all nicely bundled up before we speak. So the challenge here or the tip here is push yourself, outside your comfort zone to say that in this meeting, I will say something because I'm confident enough that this thing is at least 75% correct. And it's my view of the thing. Let me put it out there and then see what happens.
Absolutely. And I think that also you need to ask yourself, what will the others lose if I don't share my point of view or my opinions? Because eventually when you're not doing that, others lose
Exactly.
your perspective.
Yeah. You are depriving them because just say you are the only stakeholder who has that information, but you let everyone else talk and you don't say anything and the meeting is over. And like we said, the others have not benefited from your analysis, from your data, and from your opinion of the situation, which could have turned the direction of the meeting to something better.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch another aspect of speaking in meetings. So you mentioned about not being 100% sure. For me, my problem was not that because I'm not a perfectionist. I'm happy with being, making mistakes and being inaccurate or not perfect. But the problem I had was, how do I insert myself into a discussion? Because a lot of times it was like everyone were talking and I didn't know how can I start speaking without speaking over someone else and being respectful. How do I even make that, my way into all the discussion? Do you have any strategies for that?
There are various scenarios, and I hear you. If you put on the hat of an extrovert, they don't wait. I'm not saying they're rude, but they get so passionate and they'll just say, and sometimes they will talk over you, and you have three people talking all at the same time, right? So, okay, let's see. If the meeting has an agenda and you know the facilitator or the organizer of the meeting, and you know you have strong points to contribute to the second part, just say 1, 2, 3, 4. If the second point in the agenda is where you want to contribute, tell the facilitator that, I have something. So it's like pre-planning before the meeting. I have something that is important that I want to share in the second agenda. So when you start that, could you like call on me or open the opportunity for me to speak? So that's a bit of planning that you can get a word in. Or if your manager or another colleague is in, you could also plan beforehand to say that as you're saying this, can you like, oh, okay, Jenny has a point to share as well. Why don't we hear what she said? So you get other people to kind of give that opening for you. But in the event that you don't have that, you don't know the organizer, you don't know anyone in the meeting and everyone's talking, this is when you've already done the practice in those meetings where you were given the opportunity to talk. Then you commit to yourself, okay, no matter what happens, when I see it's like 10 minutes past the meeting, I will say something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you hear that person saying, I will say something. And it's perfectly fine to interrupt in a polite, professional manner to say, hey, Limor, yeah, I agree what you're saying. However, this is how I see things, right? So it's just that bit that you politely so-called interrupt and you go and say something. And
Yeah.
no one's going to say, oh, Limor is very rude, right? They're not going to say that. But it's all in our head again to say that we must wait for everyone to be quiet before we can speak. It's not going to happen. So in order to do that, get yourself kind of like trained or prepared or practice in more safer type meetings, like team meetings where you know you are supposed to speak, in meetings where you have a colleague or two that you can discuss beforehand that, okay, we plan beforehand, okay, Limo, you talk about this, Jenny will talk about this, and Amanda, you talk about that. So it's a bit of planning just to get comfortable. And when you're in impromptu brainstorming large meetings, you commit to yourself, okay, I am going to say something in this meeting and I'm not going to walk away not saying anything. And it can be just 1 minute. And you get the hang of it and you increase your confidence as you keep doing this.
Absolutely. Those are great tips. Absolutely. And definitely, at times you may feel like, oh, you're rude, but as you mentioned, I mean, it takes a lot of practice. Practicing is the way to go about it. The good thing nowadays, I think, that makes it maybe a little bit easier is the virtual environment. And
Yes, you
with
can put up
Zoom,
the virtual hand.
exactly.
Yes,
I feel
that
like the
helps.
raise hand is such a powerful tool for introverts, right? You raise your hand. Obviously, there need to be a good moderation of the meeting, and someone need to notice that and kind of
Yes.
approach those people. But I feel like it's making it easier.
Yes, because it's funny, right? In a face-to-face meeting, you're not in the classroom and you raise your hand, and then they'll probably think, "What's wrong with you? Why are you raising your hand?" But yes, virtual meetings can help. However, sometimes the raised hand is not noticed, like you said, if it's in a group of 30 people. So that's when you yourself think what you said just now. What am I depriving the others of if I don't speak up? And also, before going into the meeting, think about I've been invited to this meeting. So obviously my contribution is of some value. And why am I wasting this opportunity of not sharing, right? So it's not, I think the block here is when introverts really focus inwards because this is what we do naturally. So when you go into this kind of things where you need to speak up and you need to share, focus outwards. What information do I need to relay to the audience, to the people in the meeting? What benefit can I convey? What issues can I raise that maybe the others didn't see? So focus outwards, get out of your head, focus outwards and see, what impact can you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I want to say to the extroverts out there, notice those people that are introvert and help them out. Especially if you own the meeting or if you're maybe the supervisor or the manager, notice those people, ask them, right? I mean, try to make sure that everyone speaks and reach out and say, hey, do you have something to add? Hey, Jenny, do you have something to add? That really can mean a lot and help a lot.
And it's true, nowadays leaders are also more self-aware, and with the various diversity and inclusion policies in the workplace, and of course with hybrid and remote working, managers are now also understanding the nuances of people and how the mode of communication. So sometimes if you call out an introvert, they might only say the surface level information. So have various modes of communication. In a meeting, if an introvert shares only this, give him or her the opportunity to say that I will follow up with an email or with a presentation deck that contains more, right? So sometimes we love to write. We allow the different types of communication. It doesn't need to be in the meeting all the time. Yes, you can have an opener or a starting point, but allow the introvert to showcase their talents, strengths through other means. So it could be in the written form, or it could be something well thought out and followed up in another meeting.
Wow, that's a great point. Yeah, actually, I mean, different communication styles is so important, right? Everyone has their own style. And the good thing about working remotely and asynchronously nowadays that you can share information or opinions in different ways, right? You can record Loom videos, you can write documents, you can, just record a memo. There are plenty of opportunities depending on your style and how you prefer to do it, and also how people like to consume the information.
That's true. Although that will lead to another topic of being, too overwhelmed by all the messaging that comes in. And I think that's what we suffer. Maybe not just in the tech industry, overall, right? I have clients telling me I cannot ignore the Slack notifications. Then I'm like, can't you just turn it off? No, I can't turn it off because, I need to look at it. So that's a whole different issue.
Yeah, that's a whole different discussion. Tell us, Jenny, maybe tell us a little bit about your program. I mean, I think it's called Introverted Visibility. Do you want to share about it?
Yes. So although the program is addressed for introverts who want to be more visible, and this desire could be from within themselves, if they feel that, oh, if I need to get promoted or higher level role in this organization, I've been told to be more visible, or it could be they just want to feel a bit less socially awkward. So again, there is that framework or umbrella that, okay, how do I become more visible as an introvert without without appearing fake, like you said, putting on a mask while still remaining authentic. Within the coaching session itself, I will have this conversation with you, Limor, find out your work experience, your intention of coming into the coaching session, and what's your main challenge. Then I'll explore with you what's going well now, because everyone has strategies, right? And then we build in those coaching sessions how to maybe add on to those strategies or have a different way of looking at the situation. And it all starts within your own mindset and your own limiting beliefs. Sometimes introverts feel that, okay, no one understands me. My voice is too small. That's a limiting belief, because actually your manager, your peers are all waiting for you to speak. You are the one holding yourself back. So it's also to take small steps and have small goals that are achievable. And once you achieve those goals, you gain that momentum, you gain that confidence. So me working hand in hand, adjusting to your present situation and see what small steps can you make or take to make things just a bit better. So I don't overwhelm my clients to say that, oh, today you're an introvert, tomorrow I need you to speak a TED talk in front of 500 people. It's not like that. A challenge could be, could you reach out to that counterpart Emir and have that conversation about this project. If the introvert all along is saying that I don't have visibility with my Emir colleagues, right? So it's just that small step. And once she does that, it's like, oh, that's not so hard. Okay, what else? So is that, and by the end of the coaching session, you would come up with your own ways, your own strategies to be visible, and yet also hopefully gain confidence to say there are times that I don't want to be visible, and it's fine.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I think what you mentioned, it's true to everyone. Basically, when there's something that you feel like you need to do or want to do and you don't do it because you feel uncomfortable, it means that that's a growth area for you.
Exactly.
And when you do it, you say, oh, well, it's actually not that bad. And then you can expand, right? You can expand your discomfort zone and do more and do other things.
Yes, and you create a new comfort zone. So like you said, expand, right? So once you're doing that, you go to a networking event, you could talk to 3 to 5 people, you expand. And before you know it, you're probably saying, hey, actually, I can speak on stage for 5 minutes. That's okay. That's quite a large expansion, but maybe you could do that. And how to do that is really get passionate about the thing that you want to talk about. So if you're an expert in your area, again, think about, if I don't share this information, who am I depriving this information from, and how would this make things better for everyone?
Absolutely. And I want to share something personal. Like, I remember when I was at the beginning of my career and I went to tech conferences, those were very large conferences, like tens of thousands of people. I felt very, very, very uncomfortable, to say the least. And I didn't know it that back then, but I couldn't be by myself, meaning that I always needed someone at the company because we traveled several people from the same company. I always looked for, I will not go to a session that no one else is going to. I will only go with people I know so that I can sit with people I know, right? I was intimidated by like getting into an auditorium of hundreds of thousands of people that I don't know anyone and sitting next to someone I don't know. So I always looked, and I gave up on things that interest me for the sake of just going with someone else. I'm mentioning that because back then, I didn't know that it was something that I should even, do something. So if you notice that, take a challenge. And what I did, eventually I took a challenge and no, I don't need anyone. I can just go and meet new people. And I took one step at a time. But it took me some time to realize that.
Which is fine. And you eventually, now you've realized, you can share to your listeners how you felt when you took that step to be so-called independent and go to those conferences alone.
Yeah. Nowadays, I still, I'll be honest, still going to conferences is not something that I feel super comfortable. I mean, I'm okay, I'm going, I know how to network, but it's coming with an effort. It's not coming to me like naturally. I'm not like the natural person who goes and schmoozes with people and all that. It takes a deliberate effort. But yes, my comfort zone, I guess, expanded to what it used to be 20 plus years ago.
Okay, thanks for sharing. And maybe again, it's playing with the word networking, right? So some of the introverts I coach, they view networking as a dirty word. They're like, don't even say that. So change your thinking around it. If you go into a conference and say, hey, I want to make meaningful conversations with the people in my industry, in my area, and learn from them, it makes it less intimidating because you have an intention and you have a purpose. So maybe try and play. If I don't call this networking, what can I call it?
Yeah, that's a good tip. Wow, thank you. It was so insightful, Jenny. How can people reach out to you? They want your help.
Well, I know that you put all my links in your show notes, but I run River Life Coaching, so you can visit www.riverlifecoaching.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn and Facebook under my name, Jenny To, or under River Life Coaching.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jenny, for being here today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Limor. It's been great fun. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. This is your host, Limor Bergman Gross, and I want to encourage you to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Limor Bergman, and let me know. What do you think about the episodes? Feel free also to comment on Apple Podcasts and tell me, what do you want me to talk about? Which guests do you want me to bring I really appreciate that, and have a wonderful day.